Hey there, folks. Welcome to another edition of Stranger in a Southern Land. I, of course, am your host, Jake Manning. Today on the program, we have Kevin from Front Street Brewery. It's been a hot minute since we've had one of these brewery guys on here, and I always enjoy talking to him, and Kevin is no different. He's definitely like all these other brewery guys who are real mavericks, guys that follow the beat of their own drummer and just doing what they love to do in life, and that's brew beer, and you know, just really follow their heart and their heads and where their passion is really at. And that, it's just wonderful talking to people like that and people that have been successful doing that. It's just wonderful talking to them. It's also wonderful talking to Kevin because he works at one of my favorite places to go in Wilmington, North Carolina, which is one of my favorite cities in North Carolina. And Front Street Brewery's got quite a great history to it. And it's haunted, apparently. Actually, if you see in the video portion just over our shoulder, you'll see where a guy fell to his untimely death and now haunts the halls of Front Street Brewery in Wilmington, North Carolina. So it's worth watching the video portion for that alone if you're into that kind of thing, I guess. But anyways, Front Street Brewery is a real cool place to be, and Kevin's just a really cool guy. So please, anytime when you're in North Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina, that is, make sure you stop by Front Street Brewery. And just, it's a really wonderful place to eat and to drink beer. That is for sure. But if you're interested in seeing wrestling in North Carolina, I've got a treat for you this weekend. Queens of Combat is running their title tournament, and it kicks off with round one taking place in Gibsonville, North Carolina, Saturday, June 13th. It will be the first round of the Queens of Combat title tournament, and the second round of the title tournament for Queens of Combat will take place in Winston-Salem the very next day, June the 14th, at Ziggy's in Winston-Salem, so make sure you come out for that. So for more information about Queens of Combat and the title tournament coming up, make sure you look up combatqueens.com. But if you want to know about more me, what's going on, I don't have a title tournament going on here at Stranger in a Southern Land. But if you want to know more about what's going on with me, make sure you follow me on Twitter at ManScoutManning and on Instagram at ManScoutManning. And if you have any questions about the podcast, make sure you email me at jake@sslshow.com. Or if you want to book me for an upcoming wrestling event, make sure you email me at manscoutmanning@yahoo.com. But anyways, without further ado, let's jump into this very haunted podcast with Kevin from Front Street Brewery in North Carolina here on Stranger in a Southern Land. Having a conversation for
that's fine.
About 45 minutes or so, and I'll have a nice flowery intro and stuff like that.
Works for me.
But you're the head brewmaster.
Yeah, correct. Yeah,
Okay.
I've been here about 9 years now. And,
9 years?
Yeah, I've been brewing professionally for about 13.
Okay, so. Well, let's. I must say, the emails and stuff like that, you got back to me very fast, very quickly, and stuff like that. So obviously, you were raised right. I'll say that much.
Yeah.
Very polite and understand that so much. Because sometimes when I do this, I usually don't hear back from people for 2 weeks and they space on me. But you obviously had a good background growing up. Where'd you grow up?
I actually grew up in Pennsylvania, a small coal mining town called Shenandoah, and not much going on up there. But born and raised there. I left when I was 18. To go to college and get a degree in political science, which I always say drove me to drink. And
okay, so there's the connection now. Yeah. So you're already doing the heavy lifting for me. You've already made the connection to beer already.
Yep.
So.
I got out of college and I moved to D.C. because I was thinking about going to law school. That was the plan. I was going to take a year off, probably apply to law school, and my sister lived there. So I figured if I ran out of money, she'd loan me $20.
There you go.
And I started waiting tables at a brew pub, Capital City Brewing Company. And I always really liked good beer. Even in college, I was the weirdo with the six-pack of Victory, the Hop Devil or something at a party. Even though I couldn't afford it, somehow I spent all my money on good beer. And a job opened up in the brewery just cleaning kegs for like $7 an hour. I was like, yeah, I'll do that. And fell in love with it and called mom and dad and told them no more law school. And dad was like, good, yeah, stick with brewing. And my mom was like, no, you probably shouldn't do that. You should go to law school. And stuck with it. 13 years later, here I am. You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that. Like, where did the love for beer? Like you said, you were that weird kid. I was kind of that same person. Like I would always like venture off into, because Keystone Light was a big beer in our college, but I was like, how about I try this? Or what are these darker things?
I think it started with my brother-in-law. He was a home brewer. He's actually he's a chemical engineer of all things, so he should be the one brewing, and I should be the one. He works for the government. I should be the one working for the government. But he started me off with some of his home brew, and then we went out, and he was like, well, you should try this, and bought me, I think it was a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, and I was like, I don't know about this. It's a little bitter. And he's like, well, just finish the pint since I bought it for you. And then when I got done with it, I was like, okay, I get it now. And that's where I kind of just started branching off and trying to learn as much as I could about beer. I never really considered brewing. I just liked drinking good beer. And then when that opportunity presented itself, I was like, well, it's better than waiting tables. It's less money, but it's less stressful. I get to clean kegs, listen to whatever music I want, and go to beer festivals. So sure, I'm in. And, just kind of fell in love with it and learned as much as I could with the people above me, read as much as I could, and then eventually, even ended up going to brewing school, the American Brewers Guild out of Vermont. It's kind of a distance learning program, and did that, and just I can't really think of anything I'd rather be doing. Maybe a professional baseball player, but they haven't called me yet. So,
well, at least you can play year round. The weather's nice,
right?
out
Exactly,
here in Wilmington,
exactly.
So you still have that option.
Yeah.
But anyways, as far as brewing and then getting into it more, about what year was that?
That was 2004, I think, is when I kind of. I was in college is when when I'd hang out with my brother-in-law. They only lived about an hour away from my college, so I saw them a lot, and that's when I started drinking better beer. But I'd never homebrewed a batch of beer in my life.
Yeah.
Even to this day, I've never homebrewed. And I think it just, it opened up my eyes. And then when working at that brew pub, I liked the beer. I liked talking about the beer, so making the transition into brewing was just quite easy for me. I'm a guy that I love to work with my hands. You put me in a cubicle and I'll go mad immediately. So I get to work with my hands. I sweat, and at the end of the day, the beer tastes really good when you work your ass off for 7 hours, 8 hours. So it's a perfect fit for me, pretty much.
Yeah, because you're creating a product that you can have and stuff like that. But I'm trying to I wanted to place it time wise because it really craft beer and brewing beer has really kind of exploded in the last couple of years, especially in North Carolina. But it seems like, to me, in the early 2000s, especially when I was trying to venture off into different types of beers, being from the Midwest, I hear a lot of people say, oh, that's kind of sissy beer. Why are you drinking that? And stuff like that. Where to me, I think it's complete opposite, because I feel like it is it's a very American, it's very blue collar, because it's basically a few people creating a product.
Right.
It's not a company that's, owned by a company in Germany.
Right, exactly.
And I think that's people miss that about craft beer. So I don't know if those were the types of perceptions that people around you.
Growing up, it was that way, definitely. You had your Miller Lite drinkers, Bud drinkers, and then Yuengling drinkers. I grew up about 10 minutes from the Yuengling Brewery.
Oh, okay.
So that was the first time I had an internship at the courthouse, and it was right down the street from the Yuengling Brewery, and I was like, what's that smell? I like that smell. And other people were like, I can't stand that smell. And that was kind of what tipped it off. And that was the first, I guess, beer at an illegal age I had, was a Yuengling. And for what it's worth, it's just my hometown pride beer. Yeah. It's nothing too complex. It's nothing crazy, but I love it because it's decent beer, family owned, been in the generations and generations of the Yuengling family. And it's like a cool little success story out of my, coal mining town region or whatever. So maybe that was, I guess, the first semi-craft beer I ever drank. And it interests me, and I think I came in, there was kind of a boom, and then the bubble burst in the mid-'90s, I guess. So I came a couple of years after that when it was starting to kind of ramp up again, and now it's just 13 years later, it's insane. Every new brewery opens up every other weekend. I can't even keep track of them anymore. Yeah. People are like, did you have this beer from that brewery? I was like, I've never even heard of them. But I think it's a good thing, I think people are getting away from drinking the American light lagers and getting into some interesting flavors, and that's good for everybody.
Absolutely, especially local communities and stuff like that. Because
Yeah.
you're running into a lot of people that were in a particular situation that you were in. They're about ready to do a job that they were not going to be happy
Right.
at, and now they're doing something they love and they're passionate about.
Yeah. I mean, if I went to law school, who knows how much hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt I'd be in right now. And, my paycheck might be bigger, but I'd be paying off a huge student loan, and now it's just like, making beer, get paid decent. I'm living by the beach. I could think of a lot of worse things to be doing with my life, So.
That is for sure, especially the wonderful town of Wilmington,
Yeah,
North
right.
Carolina. But before let's kind of track the points from you getting to Wilmington to, up in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I said, I went to D.C. just kind of because my sister was there, and I spent a couple summers there, and I was working at that brew pub just for extra money. I didn't want to go back home, so it was a good way to just enjoy my summer in D.C., make a good bit of money waiting tables, and just hang out. And so it was the logical move after college, is kind of go there, And I was there for about 3-4 years, and it was just the traffic. It was expensive, and I realized I was like, I'll never be able to afford a house up here, no matter how hard I work.
Just the traffic alone would drive you mad.
So I made a conscientious decision that I was like, all right, well, it's time to move on, and I need to get out of D.C. and go somewhere else. And I applied to 2 jobs, Omegang in Cooperstown and Front Street down here, and they offered me the job. Or I came down for an interview, just fell in love with Wilmington immediately. It was just pretty, quaint, not too much traffic, not too expensive. So I was like, this is perfect. So packed up a U-Haul, moved down here, didn't know a soul, and took over and been running it ever since, 9 years. So.
Okay, well, you took over immediately as head brewmaster, or
yeah. What happened was they closed down for about a year to renovate the place.
Mm-hmm.
It's an old building, I think 1865, I think, and so the owner decided, I need to shut it down for a year. We need to, renovate it and just bite the bullet and do it. And the brewmaster at the time, he decided to move to Arizona, I think. So that's kind of where I came in. They were like, we need fresh face, somebody new, kind of revamp everything, and they brought me on. And I was here for about 3-4 months before we even opened, and then just been rolling ever since.
Okay, well, let's also talk. We've talked about from how you got from the move down to here, but let's talk about the steps of progressions from just cleaning the kegs to brewmaster.
Right.
What are the steps just to get to there?
Well, cleaning kegs, I was delivering kegs, and then it was just a perfect storm of people leaving above me, going elsewhere, where I was kind of thrown into the mix pretty quick. We cleaning kegs, and then it was, you need to learn how to transfer beer, you need to learn how to filter beer, and then finally, all right, let's get you up in the brew house. I don't need you to understand why you're doing this, but this is how you make a batch of beer kind of deal. Like,
you're a responsible kid. You return emails very fast.
Yeah.
We like you. Let's progress you along further.
These are the valves you need to turn to make this happen.
Yes.
So even when I was on the brew house, I didn't really grasp how beer was made, why it was made. I just knew this was the recipe. This is what I had to get it into this tank and set it at this temperature. And then as I was doing that, I had a really good boss, John Bryce, and he just kind of took me under his wing, and he started teaching me the science, the hard science, how things work, and kind of going from there. And then he was just like, read as many books as you possibly can. And that's what I did, and I just started to learn the science and what works, what doesn't work, and, kind of all fell into place. And then eventually went to school, which helped it even further, so just kind of solidified the stuff I already knew and helped me brush up on the chemistry side of it.
Okay. Were you named head brewmaster in the D.C. area before you came down here, or was being named head brewmaster that step up to that level?
I was at Capital City Brewing Company. I was an assistant brewer, and then I took a job at, it's no longer around, it was Thoroughbreds Grill and Brewing. It was a small 10-barrel restaurant, brew pub, and I was the brewer there. I was the only one. I didn't even need an assistant at that point. And I worked there for about a year, and they closed down, and that's kind of what helped push me out of the D.C. area. Because I kept getting further away from D.C. Leesburg was about 45 minutes outside of D.C., out in the country, and but it was still tons of traffic, so I was like, all right, time to go.
Like, how far do I have to get away from this traffic?
I'm going to North Carolina. I gotta get away from it.
Exactly. So there's this big step up, new town, new job title in a sense, so and you make your way to Wilmington and stuff like that. But let's talk a little bit more about the city and this town and stuff like that, and what your impressions of it. Because it is a very unique place in North Carolina.
Right, and it's coastal, so this is the first time I lived on the coast. I grew up in the mountains of Pennsylvania, and the one thing I noticed, I moved down here, I think it was June, July, middle of summer, and I was like, wow, maybe I made a mistake. It's hot, it's humid, it's sticky. But then eventually, you just get used to it, and when to be outside, when not to be outside. And it took a little bit of adjusting, but there was always that beach there that if I had a rough day at work trying to figure this stuff out, I could just go sit on the beach for an hour, and everything just kind of floats away because you're like, wow, I'm like minuscule. My problems compared to everything else.
That is the feeling that I get, and that's why I'm going to make sure I go to the beach after this.
Absolutely.
Just to look, because you're like, a big wave could just come out of nowhere and crush me.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I can do about that. I have to control everything throughout my entire day, but I can't control what could happen
Exactly.
out there.
And then, it was a couple of people who were like, well, you're new in town, so we're going fishing. Hop on the boat with us, bring some beer. And it's just, you cruise that intercoastal, and it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And, I was like, all right, I could do this. I can handle living here in this town. And since I've been here, Wilmington's it's been growing. More restaurants. The downtown area has just changed significantly in the past 9 years, and I think for the better. We're getting better restaurants, better food, better stores, and they're doing a lot to revitalize downtown too. Put some money into it. So I think it's just wonderful. It's great. This is my favorite place. I don't think I could live anywhere else after living here for 9 years.
Yeah, I always say this is the place I run away to after my second divorce.
Yeah. So. And, and I get to live in a place that they spend a lot of money to come visit this town. And I live here. Every day of the year I'm here, and I think that's just a really cool opportunity that Front Street allows me to do what I love, pay me, and let me live in Wilmington. I couldn't be happier.
And then, of course, you've got like people filming stuff all the time.
Yeah.
There's that it's kind of an artsy community.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then you could just go an hour outside and you're in the country.
Oh, yeah. I bought a house probably 15 minutes. It's a little north of Wilmington, but it feels like I'm out in the country. It's like farmland, whatever. I'm right by the river, but then 10-minute drive and I'm right down in the mix of, downtown. So can't complain.
Absolutely. But anyway, let's talk a little more about let's start talking about Front Street and stuff like that. This is a unique building, and it's like listed on the website about the history of this building. And I don't know how familiar you are of the history of this building and stuff like that. Like, it used to be a hat shop and then a carpet place.
Yeah, it's been a bunch of things. And it was a dentist office. It was a candy store. I tell people it was a brothel. I have no evidence to back that up whatsoever. It just sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
It's haunted. We got our local ghost, Henry.
Let's talk about have you tell me the story.
Okay. Well, Henry... Well, I'll tell you my story.
Okay.
When I started here, they were always like, when we closed down up on the third floor where we're at right now, there's some weird stuff, and I was like, whatever, I don't believe it. Yeah. So I was in my basement, and I have this, my desk, and it's a big window, and I had my head down, and I was looking through a catalog, and like somebody came towards the window, and it came right through the door and walked right past me, and I thought it was my general manager, Chris, and I was like, hey, Chris, what's up? And there was no answer, and this was early. It was like 7:30 in the morning, and I'm like, all right, he's gonna scare me. So I go into the back room, and there's nobody back there. And then like all the hair just kind of stands up on my head and my arms, and I just kind of run upstairs. And I'm pretty sure that was Henry. I didn't believe in ghosts till that happened, but we did some digging. Or actually, one of our regulars, he works for the historical societies. He's like, I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. So he finds an obituary from, I think it was 1910. Gentleman's name was Henry Wenzel, German immigrant. He was painting the skylight right back here. Fell off the scaffolding, broke his neck. There were 2 doctors in the store at the time, and they pronounced him dead on the scene. And in his obituary, he was a carriage driver for Palmetto Brewing Company down in South Carolina. So we're like, that has to be our ghost, So we made a beer, Henry's Hellesbach, which I think it might still be on tap. We might have 1 keg left, and that was in his honor. But he's harmless. He doesn't hurt anybody or scare anybody too bad.
Just natural state is walking around a brewery.
Yeah, I think,
anyways.
figure, he's a German immigrant, used to work for a brewery. He probably feels pretty comfortable here, being around beer and smelling it. And I don't know how it works with ghosts, but yeah, I haven't seen him since then, thankfully. Maybe since I made that beer, he was like, all right, he's cool. We'll leave him alone.
The soul has been appeased.
Right. But yeah, the building, I think, it was 1865. The brewery got put in 1995, so we're actually celebrating 20 years right now, which is kind of cool for a brew pub. You don't see that very often, you know what I mean? So I guess we kind of started right when the bubble burst, but somehow managed to make it for 20 years, and one of the first breweries in Wilmington, and been around the longest currently. So pretty happy with that.
Yeah, because there's a couple that just recently have popped up, I've noticed.
Yeah, we got there's Ironclad, Wilmington Brewing, Flytrap Brewing, Waterline's about to open, Broomtail Craft Brewing. So it's definitely. It's kind of cool because I've been the lone one here for so long now. I have other brewers to hang out with and talk to, and if I need a extra bag of pale malt, I could finally call somebody up and be like, "Hey, can I?" You know what I mean?
So there's a kind of a cooperation between all the brewers. In a sense.
And I found that that's in most brewing communities. It's there's no big secrets or how do you do this. It's pretty open community, and everybody wants everybody to succeed because. The better we all are, the more people are going to come here to actually drink beer in Wilmington, and they're going to hit every spot. Rather than maybe going to Asheville, they might say, well, Wilmington has 6 breweries. Let's go check them out now. So I think it's good for
Asheville's had a lot for quite some time and stuff like that. So it's kind of nice to see Wilmington pull in some more and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I like it. I mean, I think it's great. And I have another place to go drink a beer and get out of here, you know what I mean, when work's done. That way I can't get pulled back into work. I could go have a pint at another brewery.
And I kind of noticed, because as you kind of opened up some doors just to hook up my electrical equipment, I noticed you got stuff kind of stuck in every corner of this place.
I'm all over the place. I got most my equipment's on the main floor, then I got equipment in the basement. I have a back room down in the alley that has extra fermenters. I got my malt up here, so it's nearly impossible to track me down here unless you have my cell phone number. So, you know what I mean? I'm all over the place, and if you ask for a hostess for me, they're going to be like, I don't know. I have no idea where he's at right now. So
Yeah, that's kind of what happened when I walked in.
Right.
They're like, I don't know. And then they're like, oh, there he is.
yeah, it's I'm all over the place, but it keeps me.
You and the ghost, just
Exactly.
just pop up out of nowhere.
But it's good. At least I don't get lazy. I'm all over the place, up and down stairs, and it's kind of keeps me in shape a little bit, I guess. So
Yeah, is there like 3 levels to this?
yeah,
this
the basement, the main floor, then this mezzanine here, and then we're in the beam room, which we kind of consider our 3rd floor, but it's kind of the 4th floor.
Yeah, because you've got the different tiers and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Does all the main brewing happening in the basement, or like where?
The brewing actually happens on the main floor. When you walk in, you see the kettle on the left
Okay,
there.
yes.
So that's the actual brew house. Downstairs is mostly serving tanks. My office, like the keg cleaner, the filter. Out back, we have more fermenters, and then the malt is up here. So.
Okay. And of course, it's a restaurant, so you employ the waitress and stuff like that. But how many people actually work underneath you in the brewery?
I have 2. My right hand girl is Kelsey. She's actually, her title is the head brewer. She's doing most of the brewing right now. And she's been working with me for about 2 years. She's great. She's a really wonderful up and coming brewer. She put herself through brewing school, and she gets it, and she's going to do really well. So we promoted her to head brewer, let her do most of the brewing. I'm still overseeing her in terms of the recipe development, production, scheduling, things like that. And I just started kind of doing more lab work, propagating yeast. It gives me a chance to get away from the brew house and worry about cleaning our beers up, making them better, even better than they already are, and kind of doing quality assurance. And then I got another guy working under me, Steve. He's does most of the deliveries, keg cleaning, filling the growlers. He kind of doing what I started doing at Capital City Brewing Company. So, but we're making 1,400 barrels a year here, so that's about 2,800 kegs of beer that's pretty much served out of this restaurant alone, which is great. We don't have to distribute anywhere. We keep most of it in-house. So.
Okay. Well, where are the other places that you take it? So
Thalian Hall, the theater, has our kegs. And then there are 2 more places, Whiskey Creek down in Masonboro Loop Road. They carry our beer, and Ice House up in New Bern. Okay. But they're both just good friends of ours, so we help them out. We have people call us for kegs, and we're like, sorry, we could barely make enough for ourselves. So, we just kind of rather keep it in here rather than worrying about sending it out to the market. We're just not big enough.
Because then you're just going to have to find somebody to deliver the
exactly.
kegs.
It's like once all the labor comes into it and the extra labor, it's not even worth it. It's not like we're making any money off of it. You know what I mean? So
because that's like the big concern of a smaller business is now you're going to have to the logistics of just doing that is sometimes more.
Yeah, and you're handing your beer over to somebody you might not know, and if they put your keg, they're storing your keg of Kolsch on a 90-degree back deck and then throwing it on and it tastes like crap, then it comes back on us where they're like, wow, Front Street's beer sucks.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, not really. It's just the way they stored it. So I'm much happier keeping everything where I can control it in-house and keep an eye on everything. So.
Do you look at it like an art like that? Like this is my signature. This is my brand, and I protect it that much. And it seems like most brewers I talk to, they feel that way about it.
Yeah, it's like their baby. You know what I mean? They want to keep a close eye on it and present it to the public how they intend it to be presented. So that's why it just gets hard with distribution. It frightens me, actually. They're just thinking about somebody mistreating the beer and a customer getting it and being like, well, I'm never going to drink Front Street's beer again. And it wasn't
because it's not like recording an album and then people hear it.
Exactly.
However they hear it.
It's how people. It's
you could put it out in the wrong place. It's at the wrong temperature, served by the wrong person.
Or even like dirty lines. They put it on a line that's dirty and it tastes like junk, and it's just it scares me.
Well, let's talk about some of your art, your masterpieces here. What your regular product line? What are like types?
We got 5 flagships. They're a Kolsch, an ESB, IPA, raspberry wheat, and a Scottish ale. And then seasonals, we have kind of a set seasonal lineup, but it changes. We do, spring, summer, winter, fall seasonal. So the customers kind of know what's coming. They know Oktoberfest is usually going to be tapped on October 1st. They know that the Baltic Porter is going to be tapped the first week in November, and they kind of get amped about that. And then we have a single hop tap line that is just devoted to single hop beers. So we use one hop variety. Changes all the time. We use hops we've never used before, and that's kind of fun. And every 3rd Thursday of the month, we do a workshop, which is a 5-gallon keg of something completely random off the wall. When it runs out, you're probably never going to see it again unless every once in a while, one will really sell quickly, and we're like, maybe we should make a big batch of that and see how it goes. So we get a lot of flexibility in terms of, tinkering with recipes, what we're going to produce, and how long it's going to be on, when it's going to come out. So it's pretty easy, you know what I mean? It makes it more fun for me.
Okay. Well, how do you I've asked this of a lot of brewers that I've interviewed, and just like it still fascinates me, and I've never gotten the same answer twice. What inspires you to create like I want to create a double IPA, or
Right.
I want to create a stout, or like what's the thing that hits you all of a sudden as an inspiration?
A lot of times it's just something I might be drinking. You know what I mean? Where it's a random beer, and I'm like, I haven't made one of these in a while. I'd really like to do this, or maybe do it better. And in terms of me, my brewing style is I like clean, well-made beer that nothing too over the top. I'm kind of a weird traditionalist. Like, I don't need a bunch of 36 different malts and 36 different hops in my beer. I'm more happy with something that's a simple recipe, really clean, and showcases those few ingredients that we actually use. But we do some random one-off stuff when it works, and that keeps the customers interested, and especially kind of the beer geek side of people. But I'm more of a traditionalist. Kelsey's she's good at putting the weird stuff in beer, so I let her kind of go with that every once in a while. But or it could just be something, a book I'm reading, you know what I mean, where I'm reading on a particular style, and I'm like, wow, that seems like a really fun beer. I'm going to try to make that. I'll go buy a couple and get an idea of what it tastes like, what it smells like, and figure out how I can put it into, the Front Street system and make it work.
Where would you say your beer preference lies? Is it more on the lighter side? Is it more on the darker side? Are you more in the middle?
I'm a sucker for a good lager, whether that's a Schwarzbier, Oktoberfest, or even Helles, and hoppy. I like hoppy too. So, I tend to stay away from really, really high alcohol beers lately. I just can't do it like I used to. So, a good, just well-made 5% pale ale is great for me. Something that's easy, drinkable. I love hops. And then the same with the lager side of things. I think they're difficult beers to make, so not everybody can make a good lager. So when I find a good lager, I know kind of what the brewer knows. He knows what he's doing with that. And, he has got nothing to hide behind. So it's kind of impressive when you do get a good lager, and I kind of stick with those two. But same side, I love Belgian beers, I love sours, but I just don't drink them as often as a good lager, hoppy pale ale or some IPA, something like that.
Well, in your process of creation, has there ever been something where you're like, I don't know if this is going to work, and then it turns out to be something fantastic and you want to put on your regular rotation, or like?
Yeah. There was one beer that it actually won a gold medal at the World Beer Cup in 2012. It was our spring brew. It's a French-style beer de Mars. And when I was developing the recipe, I was like, I've heard this idea that if you use this specific lager yeast and you ferment it at 75 degrees, which is way high for that yeast strain, that it creates this kind of tangy, tart flavor to it almost, but it's really nice. And I was like, well, I'm going to try it. And I was like, this could be a total train wreck, and it worked, tasted great. We sent it off to the World Beer Cup, won a gold medal, beat all the Belgian and French breweries that make them.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, all right, this one's sticking around. It's not a flagship because it's kind of a bigger beer, but people get pretty amped every spring that it does come out, and it sells pretty quickly. And that's probably the one happy mistake either where I was like, I don't think this is going to work, but it did, and it proved itself. So.
Okay. Well, let's talk about this process. I was going to work my way to the World Beer Cup thing. How does a beer competition work? Do you I have no idea how you submit, how you're like, oh, this is good, and the qualifications, and it fascinates me.
Basically, what you're looking at is you're going to spend some money on it. They're not cheap to enter. We usually enter, 4 big ones a year, depending. GABF, World Beer Cup every other year. The Carolina Championships of Beer, which happens every April, and then there's the NC Beer Cup, which is kind of put on with the state fair. So it's all about recognizing what the judges are looking for. If you're going to say I want to enter a Kolsch, I need it to taste like a Kolsch based off of those parameters they give us, because that's what the judge gets. He's getting a sheet of paper that says Kolsch. This is what you're looking for. They don't know it's your beer. They don't know it's Front Street's. They just know they're getting something that's supposed to be a Kolsch. They're going to taste, and they're like, yeah, this is really good Kolsch. Let's move it on to the next round. Or, no, this doesn't taste like a Kolsch, so let's just negate it anyway. So it's kind of a crapshoot, I think. You don't know which judge you're going to get.
Well, how do you submit it? You show up to the
you'll send it beforehand. For instance, for the GABF, the beers will be you need to have your judge beers there by September, and they'll judge them behind closed doors. And then announce the winners in October, whenever the festival is. So.
Okay, well, where are they judging them at geographically?
GABF is in Denver.
Okay, Denver. So you have to get your beer to Denver in optimal conditions.
Which is a crapshoot, because you're putting it in a box, wrapping it, and shipping it to Denver, and you don't know if it's going to sit on a truck for 3 days, so it's kind of a crapshoot. And we've had some success in the big competitions. We have way more success in the local competitions because the beer might only be going to Hickory or Raleigh as opposed to across the country.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a crapshoot, but we like entering them, and you get feedback. Some feedback is good, some feedback's bad. Where the guys, you might get a sheet that just says no, or somebody that actually says, well, here was the problem, and this is what I found, and this is what I tasted, and then you could look at that and actually use it to make better beer in the long run. So.
Okay. So, what award? I know you've at least won the gold award, like you were talking about before. What other awards have you won?
We've won a bunch at the Carolina Championships of Beer. We've been doing it since I got here, so we have like 9 years of medals.
Wow.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even be able to list them all. NC Beer Cup, the first year they did it, we won Best in Show with our ESB, which is one of my favorite beers. It's just really traditional British, extra special bitter, easy drinking, balanced, well-made. And then last year at the NC Beer Cup, I think we won a silver for our Scottish. And GABF, I haven't won anything at Front Street yet. When I was at Capital City, one of my recipes won. It was funny. They entered it, then I took another job, and then it won while I was at my other job. My old boss called me, and he was like, hey, man, one of your beers won. And I was like, cool, can I have a medal? And he's like, yeah, I'll get you one. It's your beer, so it kind of worked out. But haven't had any luck at GABF with the Front Street beers yet.
Okay. Well, we've talked about some of the successes. Was there ever an idea that you had that probably didn't come off as well as you expected or hoped, or anything you kind of reached a little far? I'm like,
I think I got a little overzealous when I first got here. I made a German smoked lager, Rauch beer, and we couldn't give it away because smoky kind of bacon lager. But it won a gold medal at the Carolina Championships of Beer. And the guy running the thing, he was like, it was on the Best in Show table. You almost won Best in Show. And I was like, well, tell all those judges to come down to Front Street. I was like, it was me and my manager basically drinking it, and we just couldn't get rid of it. So that was one that was kind of cool, where it was like, it was a really well-made beer, but the public was not ready for it at that point, Especially Wilmington in the South 9 years ago was a little different landscape than it is now.
Okay. Well, what are some of the things you have like upcoming as far as your product lines, or things you want to see grow with the brewery?
I think one of the things we're kind of working on is slowly implementing. We're going to scale back on the single hop project, and we're going to start working with more local things. There's going to be a tank devoted to this beer was made with sage from so-and-so's farm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or, we have a beer on tap right now that has Port City Java coffee in it, and they're right next door. They're celebrating 20 years. So we want to kind of do more community influence things. We do a couple charity beers through the year. Right now we have the Battleship Pale Ale on, which $1 for every pint goes towards helping the Battleship renovate their hull across the river. Mm-hmm. We also have the Falconer's Flight, which $1 from every pint goes to the Cape Fear Raptor Center, and they rehabilitate birds of prey. Mm-hmm. Great organization. They need all the fish they can get. They got 2 bald eagles up there. They're just going through fish left and right. So it's really cool way to help out the community, be involved with the community, and we're successful, and I'm happy for that, but we want to help out the community as much as possible and put some back into the community that helped us for 20 years. So kind of going on that route, I think.
Okay. Well, and also too, this community is very much, there's a lot of filming going on. They always they used to call this like the East Coast Hollywood for a short period of time. I have to ask, just because of that reason, if you ever had any celebrities, actors come in like, I like your beer, or I like this place, or they filmed anything here, because there's always that type of connection here.
Yeah, I have autographed baseball from Danny McBride when he was filming Eastbound and Down here. Mm-hmm. He came in and he loved the beer, and he got a sampler and a couple growlers to go, so he autographed a baseball for me and really enjoyed the beer. But we've had a handful of people. Hank from Breaking Bad was in here quite a bit. I always miss them because I'm here in the morning and the afternoon, and they usually come in late night after they're done filming. So I'm always the one that I'm like, oh, man, I missed that guy. I missed one of my favorite actors, Sam Rockwell, was hanging out. And, I was at home in bed. So and he apparently really, really liked the beer, but I didn't get to talk to him, unfortunately. So.
But that's got to be cool. You're brewing something, and like that's a set of circumstances. If you went anywhere else, you wouldn't really get.
Exactly, yeah. And they haven't filmed in here yet. They've used the alleys before. Mm-hmm. I think my funniest filming story was I was coming to work. It was about 5:30 in the morning. I had an early brew day, and I was coming out of the parking deck, crossing the street. And when I was crossing the street, there was just burnt out cars, like glass all over the thing, and I was like, oh man, what happened? And then I realized they were filming Revolution on Front Street, and I just didn't get the memo, and it was just kind of really cool to see like this apocalyptic scene on Front Street. I went to work. An hour later, they were done filming. It was cleaned up, looked just like Front Street usually does, which I was like, that's amazing that they got that cleaned up so quick. But it kind of threw me for a little bit of a loop at 5:30 in the morning. I was like, wow, they must have been partying hard last night.
Man.
Yeah, they're overturning cars and burning them.
But yeah, because that's one of the cool things is I used to come here to Wilmington because I had friends who were here, and like every once in a while, so I know some of the landmarks, so I would see them pop up and stuff like that. But like I said, that's an experience you wouldn't normally have if you went anywhere brewing anywhere else.
And it's really kind of cool. It's low key where it's accessible. When they're filming, it's not like on some studio lot where it's closed off. Like I've walked through movie sets before and didn't even realize it. Like I said with this, and nobody's telling me like get off the set or anything. They're everybody's pretty happy to be here. It seems like the actors are like, cool, I'm in this cool small coastal town. I'm having fun playing make believe, making a bunch of money, and everybody's fairly accessible. It's not. Robert Downey Jr. when they were filming Iron Man 3, he was just hanging out downtown, going to every shop, taking pictures with whoever wanted to take a picture with him, and buying local stuff. And that was just really cool that this guy's a multi-millionaire and he doesn't have to do that if he doesn't want to.
Yeah, and the community here is usually pretty cool and pretty used to it.
Yeah, nobody's like, it's not like the paparazzi's following them around. I think that's why they like it. It's just there's not 20 cameras following them everywhere they go. It's just like, oh, hey, there's Robert Downey Jr. Hey, man. And
and there's a lot of people that work here that make their own small films and stuff like that. There's a very artist community and stuff like that. Especially, I think it's one of the things that makes Wilmington very cool and stuff like that.
Absolutely. It's definitely unique, to find it in this tiny little coastal city.
Absolutely. But another thing that I like about Front Street Brewery, because every time that I come to visit, we ate here Friday night, and then last time we were here, we made sure we came here.
Cool.
The one thing that I find very fantastic is you have a wide variety of bourbons and whiskeys.
Oh,
here.
yeah. We have upped our bourbon game over the past 2 years, and I don't even know what the count is. I can't even keep track of it, but I think we think we're the biggest in the state. We're not 100% sure.
You have to be pretty close. It's pretty, because me and my girlfriend are both big bourbon drinkers, and it's an impressive lineup you guys have. Yeah,
I love bourbon too. That's my beer or bourbon. They're my two go-to drinks, and the guys that make it happen, our managers, they go above and beyond to try to find these bourbons, and it's amazing that they get some of the things they get, and it's just really impressive. And we do really well. We do bourbon flights, so that helps out. Where you don't have to just pay $10 for one bourbon. You're getting 5 different bourbons or 4 different bourbons for a pretty reasonable price too. So you get to do a nice little sampler.
Absolutely. And have you ever thought, like, and I only bring it up because my girlfriend lived in Kentucky, so those bourbon barrel ales and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Has there ever been a thought of maybe doing something similar?
Oh yeah, we do them.
Okay.
They're sporadic.
I was going to say, because it's a good mesh of what you guys got for an alcohol collection. I wondered if that ever, I'm sure it crossed your mind.
Yeah, we do them throughout the year. A couple times we'll do full batches where it's 20 kegs of bourbon barrel beer, or we just get one bourbon barrel and that's about 3 kegs. So it's all whatever we can get our hands on. We have some wine barrels back there. We had some cognac barrels. We have some barrels that we inoculated with wild yeast. So we got plenty of wood tucked away around here in the brewery with beer in it. It's just a matter of we're not going to consistently have a bourbon barrel-aged beer on tap, but it's going to be kind of sporadic, and it's like, hey, this is coming. If you want to drink it, I suggest you hurry because it's probably going to run out after the weekend. So, but it's just another tool for us to mess around with, have some fun.
That's awesome. Now, as far as, like I said, you've got everything kind of tucked away, and it's such a historic building in a sense. Has there ever been thought of expansions or renovation or doing something, or are you pretty happy with the setup that's in place now?
Personally, I'm pretty happy. It's up to the owner. If he wants to expand, I'm all for it. I think, another brew pub would be cool, or even a production brewery that maybe we could do a little bit of distribution, but it's up to his checkbook and what he wants to do. But as for me currently, I'm happy. Like I said, I don't have to worry about distribution. Everything runs pretty good here. Things break, but it's nothing catastrophic. It's not like the first year I was here where I was just trying to figure everything out, and I think it's great. He gives me a lot of leeway to have a lot of fun. He trusts me, and I'm pretty happy. I can't complain.
Oh, awesome. As we get a little bit here closing, I just want to have you talk about some of the stuff that's coming up as far as in your product line, or even with the restaurant itself. This will probably come out in a couple of weeks. So if there's anything to let people know about what's coming up.
We're going into our summer lineup, and as I said, it's our 20th anniversary, so we're kind of doing something different than most breweries would do. If 20th anniversary, you hear a lot of breweries that are like, this is our gigantic 18% barley wine to sell it, and we're going old school. One of the original beers Front Street lineup was Lumina Lager. It was a Helles, and I brewed it for about 2 years when I got here. We just couldn't keep up, so I had to go Kolsch because it's a little bit quicker turnaround time. So we're doing 2 batches of the old school Lumina Lager, and we're going to pull that out, do throwback shirts with the old logo on it, and we got a bunch of Wilmington natives that grew up with that beer. They're like, yes, you're bringing it back. I'm so excited for that. So we're doing that. We got our summer seasonals where we do a couple Belgian beers. We got a Hefeweizen that's going to be on for most of the summer. And, just kind of get to play around with some more refreshing, a little bit lighter beers when it's 95 degrees down here. So that's kind of what we got coming for the summertime.
Okay. Also, you brought up a good point, and I'm glad you mentioned it about your T-shirts. You offered anytime you have a new beer or a rotating one, you've got like different art designs.
Yeah. We usually try to pick about one seasonal every season, so it's never going to be. We're never going to have our full lineup of T-shirts.
Obviously.
We just don't have enough room, but. I'm not sure what they're picking for this summer yet. Well, I guess it's going to be the Lumina Lager. So we got the T-shirts coming for that. But yeah, we always have kind of one random seasonal T-shirt. We always have our flagships and T-shirts, and we have a couple other random T-shirts laying around, hoodies, things like that.
Yeah, you guys are very good at marketing, and like you see the billboards coming into town, and you've got the T-shirts to let people know where they got this T-shirt from with the brewery and everything like that. Yeah. Is there a local artist that draws those?
Yeah, actually, all our logos were done by Luke Worley. He's a tattoo artist, a local tattoo artist that we worked with. A lot of our people have gotten tattooed by him, so we came to him with the idea, hey, we want to do some cool logos, and he was all for it, and he came up with about 95% of them on his own, which is kind of cool. So.
Well, Kevin, we've kind of come to a close here, and I just, if there's any social medias or anything that you want to let people know, or direct people to the website or anything like that.
Yeah, we're on Facebook, website, Instagram. I think we're on Twitter. I don't even know how to do that, so I'll let other people handle that.
You brew the beer.
Yeah, I brew the beer. I can't,
brew the beer.
I can't do Twitter.
You've got this budding baseball career. You're still got to work on it,
I'm just waiting for the Phillies to call.
Exactly.
They might have lost my number.
Maybe. Well, anyways, Kevin, thank you so much for sitting down with me and talking to me, especially Memorial Day weekend,
Excellent.
which probably was a busy weekend for you guys.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, it was fun.
But thank you.
Yeah, thank you.